All right, tip number 5. Use text to fill in holes in the story. So this happened, I went to Africa for a church called Christ Church in Oak Brook because they had been doing all kinds of missions work out in Africa, and they wanted to tell the church, here's what we've been doing in Africa over these past 2 years. So I went out with the missions team, and we were there for about 12 days. It was awesome experience. It's one of the things I love doing, is being able to travel somewhere and tell people stories that in cultures I've never been a part of or don't know. But we went to Kenya in Nairobi, Kenya, and my job was to say, here's what we've been doing for the past 2 years. So I interviewed all these people, their stories, and it turns out it was kind of complicated. There was a church they were sponsoring. There was youth pastors and mentors that they were giving scholarships to for their schooling. They had a Christian school near a slum that they were helping sponsor and give money to. And it was kind of like a lot of stuff. And so we filmed all this stuff and kind of figured out what the story was going to be as we were doing it, and kind of evaluating, okay, we have this story, that story. What's the overarch here in terms of what the main message is, all that kind of thing. And so in the editing, we used text, because we didn't have people saying this, to fill in gaps that we really needed in order for the story to make sense. So, for example, the beginning of the video starts by saying that in Nairobi, they live on less than whatever dollar amount per day, and like a large percentage of them live on less than $1 a day, and then we show the slum, and then later on we show text of what are all the things that Christ Church has been helping with, and then we have visuals of those things. Since we didn't have people really saying, Christ Church and naming a list off, so we just did the list with text, and then used imagery that we had underneath that text. And that happens sometimes even in an interview, where you get into editing and you realize, okay, I get from here to here and we're in good shape, but I don't know how to get from here to here. I'm missing something. And this also happened in that heroine story video. We needed a little bit more about what it was that Bethany Christian Services did that helped influence this girl's life. And so we put in text that all the things Bethany did while she was in prison and while she was out, and before she went to prison, and sending letters and all this kind of thing, because Lauren did not tell me any of this stuff because it just never came up in our story interviews, but Bethany knew about it, so we just added it as text, and that filled in the gap from here to here. So that is tip number 5: use text to fill in holes in your story.